on the phone, so we'll call this meeting to the order. And I'll ask for approval of the agenda. Second?
Second.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, it means we have a couple of them on the remote area, so I'll let Brenda start it.
Darren?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Dennis?
Here. Yes.
Brock isn't here yet. Deb?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, and then we'll go to the, we'll start with the February 18th, 2026 meeting one. Is there any corrections or additions and comments on that meeting report? Hearing none, then we'll go to meeting two. Is there any corrections or additions to that meeting report? Hearing none, we will have a roll call. Well, I'll ask for a motion to accept the 2 minutes of meeting one and meeting two.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Then a second, approved and second. We'll do a roll call vote.
Darren?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, we'll start out with activity reports. Brenda, lead test coordinator, give us a report.
Not a lot's happened since February, other than attending weed and pest meetings. Jeremiah's been to, more than I have. I've been to a couple, but, we had some annual weed meetings and, waiting to send out the grant agreements until you decide today on the Turner County one. And other than that, I guess it's just been, I really don't have a whole lot, I guess, to report this one.
Any questions for Brenda? Hearing none, we'll go to district reports. We'll start with District 1.
Well, I had full intentions of making a meeting, weed board meeting in Kingsbury County, and the weather messed it up, so I didn't get there. Other than that, I guess just kind of looking forward to the wind going down and the folks having the opportunity to get out and start getting their equipment ready in our area, I guess, up there. We're really not setting too bad for moisture. You get 20, 30 miles south of Aberdeen in the Spink County area, and from there south, it's it could rain. Wouldn't hurt a thing. Other than that, just kind of quiet, I guess. Looking forward to spring. So.
All right, I'll go to District 2, which is my district. I made it to the meeting in Charles Mix County and in Douglas County. Jeremiah was at both of them, and I rode with Jeremiah from Armour to Charles Mix when we went there. We had good meetings. They have good participation in the meeting. I'm guessing there was, excuse me.
Oh, guess who gets to buy lunch today?
There was a potential spam. You want to take it?
No, but it rained during the meeting. I think it's lunchtime.
There was probably 20 people at each one, I would say. And way better in Hutchinson County. We usually get the board and that's it. And that's all we have for Hutchinson County. I made them meetings. I continued to do my driving around. I believe I spotted a patch of common mullein yesterday. I was chasing a fire. My wife thought it was at Dimmock, South Dakota, and we live a half a mile from Dimmock, so I drove to Dimmock. Well, then I kept driving, and it was 13 miles away.
That's how it always is.
Yeah, but anyway, I drove that far, coming back on the county line between Hanson County and Hutchinson County. I'm sure it's, I'll watch it this summer in my evening drives. It's common mullein. Like I said earlier, I'm starting to see some common mullein coming down in our With that, I guess there's nothing else to report. The only thing, I've been doing some campaigning already at the two meetings I went to in District Two, because my term will be up in 2 years, and I'm telling people, you know, come and try to get, we're gonna need 3 people for my job, because I'm gonna be termed out. And, so I did. I think I've got one person that's gonna be interested in it, and I'm looking for 2 more to make sure we can fill at least 3 that we need. So, not that I wanna get rid of meeting new people, but I'll probably still come to the meeting. This is enough after 8 years. With that, that's, all I've got. We'll go to District 3.
Guess as far as, I haven't been to any other counties other than my own. Corson County is in the process of, updating our spray truck to do more, section lines. I mean, we have a truck that does the county right of ways, but we're trying to get off and start doing some section lines, and the big truck is too heavy. So we're getting a 450 with a smaller tank so we can get off the road and do some of that. We're wet. Over Easter, we got 19 inches of snow, which was 1.2 water equivalent in that, and we've got some more after that, so we're sitting good. The wind has come out, so where ducks were swimming, now they're just getting their feet wet, but it's improving. But I noticed coming down today, you get south of 212, you can definitely tell that further south you go, it's dry, and there was a guy, the Mare's Tail in Ziebach County isn't up to hold the wind back yet, and he had a sunflower field, and there is some erosion. There was like drifts of dirt all the way up to the shoulder of, so that's in your right of way there. You may need to go out there and get a scraper and have him put his topsoil back on his field. Other than that, there's really nothing else new. You look out, no one's farming really, they're spreading fertilizer. The weeds are just popping through, they're just coming out of the ground, so that's what District 3 knows.
District 4. Chuck isn't here. Well, Chuck is at a funeral, so he won't be on today. Talk about being dry, it's dry, I forgot to mention, it's dry down our way. I've never seen it so dry, and, but there's some people planting corn and beans already. It says on the bag, put it stored in a cool, dry place, so you just love putting it down. So, I don't know, but it's, a crop was never made in April or May, so it's always time for rain. We'll go to the Department of Ag and that, what's that? Oh, excuse me, Deb. Deb's report?
Well, good morning, everybody. Sorry I can't be there today, kind of been under the weather. We are dry. I live in the southern part of Spink County. We are dry. There is burn bans on. I did travel at Han and Hyde County. They have a lot of soil erosion there. A lot of dirt has blown in the ditches over that way, which is really sad to see. So, yeah, and it sounds like we anticipate winds for the next few days again. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to report.
Okay. Chuck? You have anything to report?
Not really,
Okay.
just, like everybody else, we could use a good rain, but, it's sneaking up into Harding County, the drought, so.
Chuck is the representative for county commissioners, and he started it in February. He was at the first meeting, and I believe you're from what, Harding County?
Yep.
Yes, he's from up there. So, with that, then we'll go to Bill.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple things of note, we're getting some of our federal grant notifications. Looks like we will be getting another IIJA weed and pest, for 30,000 like we had in past years. We weren't sure if that was coming or not. We did get the notification, applied for the funds, and we haven't gotten the federal notice of awards because they are working through some new grant processes, so, hopefully we'll be able to get that announcement out. We'll be able to get the award notification, get that announcement out here in a couple of weeks. Right now in our riparian buffer initiative, we're in the process of, wrapping up some, 7 million, we had gotten $3 million, from the legislature in 2021. We've used all of that money. Now we're using some ARPA funds. We had 7 million from that, closing in on having that spent. Deadline to have that spent is by this fall, but we should have that wrapped up, late spring, early summer this year. And then the legislature, through, Senate Bill 222, provide another $8 million for our riparian buffer initiative, and once we get the ARPA funding wrapped up, we'll be switching over to that funding. We've had some, some staffing changes. We've got a couple of one forester, our lead forester, announced she was moving to another job. Her last day with us was Friday. We're still in the process of filling one of our Good Neighbor Authority foresters. And I've got a new grants and loans specialist who starts this Friday, so that person will be working mostly with our Forest Service grant awards as well as our Conservation Commission loan program. And speaking of the Conservation Commission, we have a state Conservation Commission meeting on April 30th. That meeting will start at noon Central, instead of bright and early in the morning. The chair would rather drive out the morning of and not have to get up and leave Webster at dark 30 to get here for an 8 a.m. meeting. So it's a grant round, so we've got a lot going on. It's and then we'll also be talking a little bit. We'll be looking at 2 loan awards, 2 loan requests, and then some more docket information as well as some natural resource awards. So if you can't attend in person, we've got a meeting, Teams meeting set up. The agenda's posted outside, or if you'd like me to send that directly, that Teams link to you, I can do that. But again, April 30th, at noon Central, State Conservation Commission meeting in this room. So that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Game Fish and Parks, Ryan?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I guess from Game Fish and Parks perspective, we're kind of just gearing up for summer. We bring in interns on here later on once they get out of college, obviously, but a lot of them have been hired, just waiting for them to get out of school. Yeah, a lot of diversity as far as how wet or dry it is across the state. Our southern part of the state is really, really dry. The northern part of the state, fairly wet. So I know some of our guys, like out of the Mitchell office, they were working on some of those higher diversity grass seedings that we had mowed last summer. They were out doing some spraying already of some wormwood sage, trying to target some of that while they have time before they really get busy with field work. So starting to work on some of that already. Other than that, I guess one other thing to maybe note would be prescribed fire. We had intentions to do a lot of prescribed burning this year. We still do in the northern part of the state. Southern part of the state, just with how dry it is, we likely won't do very much, if any, I guess. So, yeah, that's kind of what I got.
Thank you, Ryan. Department of Transportation?
Alright, not much to update from February when we kind of gave the cost from the fall wheat spraying, because we're gearing up for spring and getting out there. We do have 19 new contracts. Most of them are just advertised right now on our DOT website for region lettings. Most of them are in the Aberdeen region, a couple down by Sioux Falls, so those are out there. We'll have all the new contracts, and then we'll be spring, so that is all.
Thank you. Brock?
Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry that I was a few minutes late, but don't have a lot. We've just concluded our lease season, and appreciate Mike for running all over the countryside doing that. Have a few discussions about weed and pest control, few requests coming in. I've mentioned it before, we depleted a lot of our fund, the previous couple of years working on grasshoppers out west, so trying to build that fund back up and be, pretty judicious about, how we're spending our money, but, it's coming back, we're in pretty good shape. I was interested the other night, I was in Redfield for a dinner, and I talked with one of the local county commissioners who's also a farmer, and to Deb's point, not everybody is dry. That gentleman said, I said, how's planting going? He says, oh, we can't get into our fields yet. He said, it's too wet. I said, really? I said, why is that? He said, well, we had a lot of rain last fall. We had very wet snow right around Thanksgiving. We've had another wet snow of late. So he says, we're just kind of in a holding pattern. We're beginning our calving, and he wasn't looking forward to the cold snap that they were looking at that night. So that's a little bit, not a lot going on, but a little bit out there. So appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I'd entertain those.
How much did, average rental rates go up from like previous year when people were bidding those?
The AUM rate is up to 28.63 or something like that, so our minimum starting bids were high. There was a lot of competitive bidding, I would say. You know, in the aggregate, of course, some people get theirs at the minimum, but by and large, we had a lot of people going after pasture land. So I guess I didn't look to see what the average was, but I do know after the first week, my finance officer said, we've already got over $500,000 worth of checks with a lot of tracts to go. So one of those was a very large tract out west in Pennington County. We call it the McElravy Ranch, and that changed hands this year. So I think we started the bidding at 20 something an acre, and it ended up going for 47. So yeah, people are keenly interested in all land, but certainly we're looking at public lands as an opportunity this year.
I forgot to mention, if anybody had any questions, they could ask the people as I could. That you could ask it when it was done. I forgot to ask that, I'm sorry. We'll go on to SDSU now.
Chairman, Bill's got.
Bill?
Did you have any tracks that went unleased this year, Brock?
Nothing out of the ordinary. We've got a couple small ones in rural county that never get any attention. Mike traveled down to Chamberlain and offered them up, and there was no bidding, but that's literally under 13 acres between the two, so not a surprise there. Might have been a couple others, but again, nothing out of the ordinary. It's because of the topography of the land, the fact that some of these aren't fenced out, some of them butt up against some tribal land and what have you, so the ones that went unleased generally do go unleased. We offer them up every year. We did have one that had not been leased that was leased this year, and I think that was, I think that was in Pennington, but yeah, no real surprises. And it's very little of our portfolio that goes unleased from one year to the next.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to SDSU.
The pasture and range and noxious weed management guides for 2026 were finally published and shipped to us on campus, so we have been distributing those two guides. Unfortunately, some people in our technology department left, which made a hindrance on that progress, but they're done. They look great. We're getting them out. Gearing up for field season, like everyone's saying, it's whether it's warm, cold, wet, dry, those weeds are coming. Starting on an article now to start planning noxious weed management going over some, tips how to go about that. Again, just the education, finishing up some greenhouse trials, and then hopefully take some of that information and implement it on some field trials. Have at least one field site confirmed for this year, but if anybody has any others with ample space and weed pressure, be happy to look into something. But just as everyone else said, gearing up for the season and what's to come. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to look like. Every year's different, but I'm sure there'll be some management questions coming up.
Any questions for Eric? Hearing none, we've heard from you. Other agency reports, APHIS, Mike, do you have anything to report?
Yep, I've got a couple of quick updates on what we've got going this summer. Grasshopper survey will be pretty much business as usual the way it's been the last couple of years. We have one returning seasonal. We did get a new seasonal hired. They're out of South Dakota, but we're going to use them in North Dakota and South Dakota. Realistically, we would have liked to have 2 in South Dakota, 1 in North Dakota. We got 2 total, so we're fairly happy with that. EAB Biocontrol, which I talked about during my presentation at the conference, we did get the new sites approved in Cottington and Greene County, so I'll work with Steve and Nathan on those releases. We plan to make 4 releases over the course of this summer, and we actually do 2 years of releases, so we'll release in 26 and 27, and then we'll do recovery efforts in 28 and 29 for those sites. The other thing that I've got is our spongy moth mail-out program is going to be a little different. They're changing some things at the federal level, so we might not be able to mail out as many traps as we have in the past. At least for this year, I don't see that affecting anybody in this group. We'll still get them to the weed and pest supervisors, the RCNF folks, and game fish and parks as we have in the past. We might cut back on like our the Master Gardeners program and some other things, but so a few changes coming there. But that's it. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, I don't believe there's any other agencies here. We'll go on to old business, the fall tour in District 3. Oh, excuse me, Nate.
Darwin, I have a couple questions for Bill. Bill, can you just expound upon it? The blowing soil issue always has been an issue. I believe that's regulated by conservation districts, if I'm not
That is
mistaken.
correct.
Can you kind of go through the process and let us know what kind of time frame that all can happen in?
Yeah, so, basically if somebody's experiencing that, and anybody can file a complaint, it can be anonymously too. They would file that with the local conservation district. Then the local conservation district, I gotta remember the timetable off the top of my head, I think has 30 days to respond unless there's some other extenuating circumstances. But then they basically go out and visit the site to see if the complaint's warranted or if it's not warranted. There's been situations before where somebody will file a complaint, and it turns out sometimes you end up with neighbor A doesn't like neighbor B, but there's a process that it has to be investigated. And then at that point, then they work with the local NRCS office and the landowner and the person being damaged to come up with a plan of action for that to implement. If the person refuses to implement it, then the next step is an injunction. But I've got some flow charts I can provide to you, Nate, with the timeline. I'm sorry I don't have the dates confirmed, set in my memory, and I don't wanna throw a date out there. Now, if there are some prohibitions, if it's blowing dust and there's where there's some more immediate actions that are required versus, other erosional issues. So I can send you those flow charts and I can provide them to Brenda and she can send them to everybody.
Yeah, what if you don't have a conservation district that's active?
Which district are you in? Elk Creek?
Elk Creek, Tri-County.
So, you would still file it with the local district because they are listed as active districts yet.
Right.
And then if you don't hear something back from them, then you would elevate it to us to take to the Conservation Commission. But under state law, it's the conservation districts that have that authority. We don't have any direct authority. And then at that point, we would ask the district what's going on, because, if we only have a handful of districts that are on total leave are.
Right, I mean, and you know the situation, Yvette's there for Butte, Lawrence, and Meade, I mean, I don't expect Yvette to go out there and do an inspection, and, I mean, and she's got her hands so
But I
damn
think
full.
Bonnie's actually, like, Tri-County is, Bonnie up in Harding is working with, Tri-County.
Okay, I did not know that, okay,
Yeah, I believe.
okay.
But I can send out that flow chart, and if you don't hear something back from your conservation district, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I've contacted them, they said they're working on it too, that's why I'm wondering what, I mean, we're doing road work in the area right now, we have equipment there, it's a landowner that doesn't live in the state, so to get, you know, him to cooperate with us is next to impossible, it seems like, but yeah, they've been aware of it, but nothing's going on, and so, I mean, and I understand, it's, I mean, especially when you have a manager who's.
I was gonna say, so somebody's managing the land?
Apparently, yeah, I'm guessing, I don't know the landowner or who's the leasee, and I don't know if any of that falls back on a leasee or not.
Well, ultimately, it's the landowner that's responsible for that, but then if the landowner has a land manager and he's not communicating with them, then, some instances, if they know who it is, they'll CC that person on there. But, you know, we've been brought in to help some districts work through the process on it, so. But it all starts, you gotta file a complaint with the local district to start.
And a county can do that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Anybody can do it.
yeah, I didn't know if a county, you know, like I said, I'm talking about a county right away that's affected, I didn't know. if a
Now, county right of way is a little different, cause there's also some special, statutes that fall in with DOT. And if it's a township, or county road.
County road.
Okay. So there's a special process for that, and I'll provide that to you.
Okay.
Because there's actually a lot more recourse to recover damages if it's happening in a county in a road right of way.
Hey, I mean, you don't know off the top of your head, we can't just go in there and push that dirt back into the field, right?
No.
Cause that's what I'd like to do, take out his fence and just push it all back in the field and.
No, and I'll send you that stuff, and
Yeah.
I'll provide that to go out to everybody.
And then I just have another question about, I know there's been some discussions over in Wyoming that the Forest Service is relinquishing some of their, timber sale, authority or action, to the state of Wyoming's. Is there any appetite for South Dakota to?
So what you're referring to is Good Neighbor Authority, and we do have a Good Neighbor, South
Right.
Dakota, Wyoming has a Good Neighbor Authority agreement, we also have a Good Neighbor Authority agreement, and we're working on getting additional funds added to that. In some instances, we're starting to do timber sales in South Dakota under a Good Neighbor Authority. We have to do individual project agreements on that, but right now, and then there's some where it involves us doing preparation work for timber sales. Supposedly, we've got some additional funding coming our way for that, because the funding we had already is almost exhausted. But yeah, we've been working on that. In fact, one of our forester positions we're trying to backfill works with Good Neighbor Authority.
And that's setting up timber sales on federal
Yeah.
lands
Yep,
and administering.
yep.
Do they administer the sale then too, or does that?
We do in some instances, it depends on which sale and which ranger, what the ranger district wants to do. Some of them, they've turned some of the sales over to us, and some of them they're doing their own. So, and we're a little not as far into the game right now as like Wyoming is, cause we just did our first timber sale last fall. So, whereas Wyoming's been doing it a little longer. But we had been doing some where we were marking some of the Forest Service timber sales to help facilitate getting those going. So yeah, there's appetite for it.
I was just wondering if you guys had staffing for that, or if you're looking to ramp up staffing
Well,
because of
We initially hired 3 people for it, and we had 1 leave back in the fall, and we're getting ready to hire, we had another person hired for that. The guy was here for a week and decided it wasn't for him, so we gotta fill that position, and we held 1 position open that we had because we were running out of the funding to do some things, and the Forest Service says we've got some additional funding coming our way. So we're gonna, as soon as we get that, we'll be staffing that position. So, yeah, we're ramping some of it up, but it's incremental to make sure we have the funding to do it. So,
Okay, thanks, Bill.
yep, you bet.
I have a comment. just left between Christine and you, that by Ree Heights, there is a ditch that's probably got pretty good size, dirt drifts in it, don't look like snow, it's dirt. Been blowing today when we come across, so.
It's really bad all the way through there, but there is one area that you're talking about that's definitely got a foot or better in the ditch for quite a distance.
I think it's better than that. It's pretty.
Yeah, Highway 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, same spot.
Yep.
Yeah, so,
I guess, and that's, I mean, when you say the same spot that blows every year, that's my concern, is that the county goes in and does something to clean this up and then it happens again next year. It's like, if they're not gonna hold the landowners' feet to the fire and make them change their practices, then, I mean, it's just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
So what's the penalty? I mean, can they actually be, their payments, farm payments be held up? if
not
they-
the farm payments unless it violates HEL, which people get confused, cause sometimes we have these erosion complaints that don't violate their soil loss under, HEL compliance. But it does because, and basically under the state erosion standards, which is 1T, whereas some soils they can, to still maintain HEL compliance can be, 2 or 3T. So we've had some instances where we've had to re-educate some of the local people, cause they're like, oh, it meets with HEL compliance, there's no violation. Well, it's true from Farm Bill compliance, which is what affects, whether they get their payments there or not. So in those instances, what people should be doing is making sure to, if there's a problem, keep filing a complaint with their local conservation district. And if the district's not doing something, let us know.
Years ago, there was one on the interstate, and I don't know if the transportation department took it about 3-4 miles east of Alexandria in the interstate, and it blew for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And this has been 10 years ago probably. And I don't know who took care of it, but it's taken care of now, but that would always, that interstate ditch would lay full of, somebody took care of it, cause it had, in the last 10 years, I haven't seen it.
And those particular, the laws dealing with blowing dirt into road right of ways, there's a lot more teeth in there than if it's blowing onto, there was an instance I know of where it was blowing on into an adjacent cemetery where it was covering up the tombstones. And ultimately they ended up planting a windbreak there to stop that from happening. But and it was ironic because the tombstones, the person who was causing the problems was some of their ancestors. They're covering up.
Reburying.
Trying to get them deep, wanted to make sure, they didn't get out.
They routed, gave a good swift kick.
Any other questions for anybody that gave a report? If not, we'll move on then to the fall tour in District 3. I'll let Brenda.
So we were supposed to, we talked about this last fall in September and was going to discuss having a tour. There was a question as to, we always have difficulty getting, especially in District 3, enough sites to go visit. Eric, I'm not sure, do you have anything that could be utilized in District 3 for a tour, for a site to look at? But I do have the Matthews Training Center booked because it's so hard to find a spot to have a meeting in District 3. So I did book the Matthews Training Center for September 15th. And then I just was wondering if if you wanna do that inspection, that tour. A lot of times we've only gone for, sometimes the morning or part of the afternoon. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I don't have anything lined up. The previous studies that were on the island I think those have been terminated, but if there was a site, would be happy to do something, if there can be one found.
Yeah,
Only tour I can give you is, cause when I do my nap adjusting is If you wanna see very healthy, what good mare's tail looks like, I will take you to places in Zebot County where that stuff is this tall and as thick as the forest. I mean, but, you know, since Lynn isn't here, and I had to railroad somebody into being chairman for the district, and, I haven't had a chance to talk, and so like, stuff up in my area, okay, you got Mobridge, you don't got a place to have a meeting, you know, that's the only town. Okay, so you get to Pier, and I don't know what you guys got south of here, you know, so this is always hard. I know when I did my NAP stuff, you guys there was a winery, there was a grape tour I took here one time, but that has nothing to do with,
We did
Yes.
Milwaukee Dam one time
Yeah.
for the commission, but I mean, we actually looked at the west of town when they had the organic area. Jeremiah, if you wanna chime in, please.
Diamond. The diamond.
I mean, we just have struggled in this area to get something to tour
to
and.
tour, yeah, I
so
mean, I
that's
got my
why
guy up there
need
in
to know what
Corson
the
is gonna
field
do
is.
some different plots with his, we got so much, sandbur coming up in the road ditches, so we're gonna try some different chemicals in different areas, we're gonna treat some and not, and then but this is the first year of that study how it's gonna last, so I don't
But
have nothing.
technically, mare's tail and sandburs, neither one are noxious weeds,
They're not
so-
noxious weeds, but I mean, that's the only thing that I have up in my country that I know of.
There isn't any special noxious weed projects going on in District Three
No.
right now. And I would say that we really don't have any real large patches of test plots either. Not that we don't have any, but I mean, they're pretty hard to find, and like the islands, that was probably the biggest patch I'm aware of, but if we had any rain, there was no way that we could ever got back in there and looked at it either. But I will say, Eric, that yes, them test plots you did a good job with them, because there's no more thistles in there. Let's just do a fishing tournament.
Aquatic invasives, we could check.
Let's tour.
Bags of lines, you know.
We'll let Ryan handle all that.
Is any,
I think I told you this, but we did do a tour with the boats one time down by Yankton, and then that's when the carp were jumping
But we
out.
could get you a snorkel and you could go look for zebra mussels or something like that.
I'm a land guy.
Oh.
You know, the best part was, Paul was
To the
right
shoreline.
that time, and he was the first one to
I'm a
get
land
nailed
guy.
by a carp, that was hilarious.
I'm sure we
Oh,
can
pretty
get some of
good.
our aquatic invasive folks to help if you do want something. I'm not in tune with that very well.
it's up to the commission on what we wanna do.
Like I say, I do have this site scheduled for a meeting because I was looking for a location. And as long as Tracy said it was available, so I went ahead and got it scheduled for that day. So essentially,
So Sully, I mean, that's what Paula is, you know, I mean, does she got some
we
patches or things?
we
that-
had a
I
site
mean,
there
that's
for
close?
Canada Thistle Biocontrol we went and looked at. We went to Hyde County that one time, that was the same time. But I mean, if you don't have specific things, we looked at, the ethanol plant.
Went to the ethanol plant.
SDSU Research Farm.
Yep.
We've been out to SDSU Research Farm about every time we've been here, I think, every 4 years.
You're talking Dakota Lakes Research Farm?
Yeah.
It's not SDSU.
Huh?
It's
Sorry,
not SDSU.
sorry.
Excuse me.
And I know years ago we were down by Chamberlain, but.
If there's anything up at the Copwood SDSU cow-calf deal, isn't there something up in Perkins County or somewhere where they've got a?
Or that's technically
Or-
four.
And it's trouble to find a spot for a meeting.
That's 4.
Okay.
Well, if you have, about 10, 15 people that have a boat, we could go look at zebra mussel, and as we're floating down the river and the lines are out, just slowly meander down, I mean, that's,
Start at Mobridge and end in town here?
yeah, just slowly come down.
It's like your slow boat to China.
Take a bus up to Mobridge and then everybody can get in.
Everybody.
There you go. You just float your way down and you'll be down here by, can you be down here by 4 or 5 in the afternoon?
Oh, I'm sure you can.
Depending upon what direction the wind's out of.
Yeah. It'll be blowing.
A good northwest wind will get you here soon, that day you'll have a southeast wind, just you wait and
Go
see.
Bob's Resort.
It's a decision the commission has to make if we wanna have a weed tour here, we don't wanna cut Darren's area out, that isn't our intent. Our intent is if there's something that we could go see and.
Well, but, you know, I found out about this, what was it, 2 weeks before the February conference that I got appointed to this, even though it happened in October, so I didn't really know all this was coming, so I don't have a lot of time to
I don't.
talk to you.
You know, honesty, your district is long. I
It
mean,
is,
the
it's
entire
long and,
state.
it's long and, yeah, and I hardly get further south than Pier, you know.
I don't know what would be down south.
Is there anything in the winter area?
Huh?
Is there anything down in the winter area?
There possibly could be, down in that Gregory winter area, Burke.
They got prairie dogs. What's that?
They got prairie dogs, yes.
I mean.
I got prairie dogs too, you don't have to go that far if you wanna see prairie dogs.
You could hand them out as pets and that would get rid of half of the.
Yeah, I got prairie dogs in Watertown too.
That's at the zoo though.
Unless there'd be something down around Reliance, over by Reliance and stuff. I don't know, you could say in Chamberlain.
Well, if I could make a comment, maybe we just see how the summer goes, and if something doesn't come up, then maybe don't do a fall tour this year.
We have to kind of know for the annual work plan and for direction, though, if there's not a clear direction of having a tour, then
Should, well,
Well, the AIS, I think, would be an interesting, at least sidebar. You know, we've got zebra mussels now in the or the shark anyway. I think they're up in Hawaii.
They're in Hawaii too.
Yeah. You know, and just get that out, and there's some other aquatics. There's a purple loosestrife down in that area. I don't remember what else we were down there mapping, but along the White River and the Chamberlain area, there is some places we can look at some things like that. We just don't let Mike drive the four-wheeler with tracks down there.
yeah.
I was gonna say, and I mean, what about like if we did, had Game Fish and Parks do a watercraft inspection or just showed people how to do a watercraft inspection? I mean, I think I took a class at one point for that, and that took like half a day, I believe, when we first started doing that, but, and I haven't done it in quite a while, but it's another idea if you're gonna lean towards aquatic stuff, and really, I mean, weed and pest supervisors should be as up to date on that as anything else, because you talk to your buddies who are fishing and stuff like that, that's good information you can share, even though it might not be related to exactly the pests that we deal with, but it's good information to know and to share with public and friends and stuff.
If you fish in Missouri and there's them zebra mussels and stuff there, they might be fishing somewhere out in your area too.
Well, and Pactola's already infested with it out in the
You know,
hills.
so something like that would be interesting.
Right.
but Chamberlain's not technically in that district, and
We're
we've got
just-
Gregory, Tripp, Lyman, I mean, it is a challenge if we don't have
The river is
very
in that
active
one.
weed supervisors in that area. That
All the way
also is a
along the
challenge.
west side.
The west
Yeah,
side.
like I said, you know, you take me, I know Walworth really doesn't have an active weed board. Okay, Lynn's in Campbell County, and I talked with him a little, but they don't have they're just lucky they get their road sprayed, so they're just maintaining. I mean, I got a new guy that, like I said, but I'm working with Sandber up there, that's gonna be our pet thing, okay. Dewey, Zebach, there's nothing, so now you're down here to Sully in, what the heck county is this here? Hughes, you know, so I don't know.
But out of the counties that are in the very southern part, really the only active ones we have is Tripp and Gregory, and that's a challenge to try to get, and you don't wanna be driving for miles and miles and miles.
Well, yeah,
That's the other.
I don't,
What was, I didn't catch, this places you was talking about?
Well, the White River,
As it feeds into the Missouri?
yeah,
Okay,
where it feeds into Missouri, there was purple loosestrife down in that area. You know, we started clear up by Murdo, and we had seasonals and us rode that down and mapped it at one time. I don't know where it is now, but we could tie that in with the AIS. And, you know, look at that, it's been, what, 12 years ago, Mike, when we were down there?
Yeah, at least. But I mean, I'm sure it's still salt cedar, Phragmites, Russian olive.
yeah, there's salt, if there was some salt cedar along there. I'm retired for 11 years and that happened. You buried that when I was still living there, I remember that.
I mean, I guess if
Yeah,
it
I
has to be
mean,
three.
we could stay in Chamberlain, have our meeting in Chamberlain. See some of it down in there. That board inspection thing would be interesting, so the supervisors who are there would get an idea of that.
You know, I mean,
I wouldn't argue that point at all.
I mean, we talked on the last board, I mean, we might as well do something about it. I mean, I don't have anything for you, and I'm drawing a blank, so if that's kind of the route, we got the water in a site, maybe.
Go to
that's
Chamberlain so
probably-
we could see a lot of woody encroachment.
I mean, I know you're on the line, and it's technically a District 2 tour, but
Well, you
it's,
drive, the river is part of it in
yeah,
District 3.
it is. It's
And
in,
that's-
it's
and
in
that's
tree
where-
for
and
quite a
that's
ways.
where we'd be,
Yeah.
in District 3. Jeremiah,
So,
what do you think, sir?
I think that if the commission wants us to do that, that we'll have to work with, try to find some of the local people, because I just don't know of anything in District 3, but I mean, it's not saying we can't work with the locals, but
That's,
I know right now there's no special
that's
projects.
politically called passing the buck.
And not, I was just saying, and not to pass the buck to Jeremiah, but another idea I just was thinking of is eastern red cedar removal. And I know that's not necessarily, like I said, our departments, but if that's something that somebody is doing, that's an option of looking at a site. I don't really don't know anything about eastern red cedar because I don't deal with it, but.
Well, I know that one time we had, that we were supposed to go out to the site, but we couldn't make it to the eastern red cedar where, in Lower Rural, where they were doing cutting and so that, because it was wet, so.
Actually, all of eastern Lyman County and all of eastern Gregory are all bordered on the eastern side by the river, by the Missouri River, all the way,
down.
all the way
That's,
up.
the river is the cutoff for District 3. So,
On the southern
southern
end.
end, yeah.
Gregory County, I mean, Eric would probably know if that would work with things, but they've got Caesar leafy spurge down there, so you could have a leafy spurge test plot down there. But other than that, I mean, I think the winter area, I wanna say at one time there was talk that there was a Scotch thistle site, but I don't know anything where that would be. Eric, if you would be able to see back, however, you know, whenever they did I think Paul Johnson was saying that once upon a time they did a test plot for Scotch thistle.
There's a lot of bull thistle.
But I haven't heard anything since then.
Yeah. Well, it's up to the wishes of the commission of what you wanna do. Eric, do you wanna, would you, if we'd go down to, say the Gregory or Winter, on the leafy spurge and some of this other stuff, or is there anything that you could do around, say, Chamberlain?
Of course, again, it's just actually procuring the site that
Yeah.
is the issue. Doing the work, coming up with a treatment list, trying to be, have some standards and some new stuff. That can be a little tricky, but it's doable. The challenge is finding a spot large enough with the abundance of weeds in order to do something that's meaningful.
Here's a thought, where's this gonna be next year? In 4?
4.
So, we better shake those people up because, get a year ahead because I mean, it's.
There's a lot of.
ATV tour.
ATV tour again, in the hills?
Come out west, that's not a problem. This area here, I do a lot of weed supervisors, they're just pretty standard, they do take care of their weeds, they don't do a lot of other. The big hits this year are puncture vine and grassy sandbrook. That's what most of them are after in their right of ways, on the road shoulder edges and stuff, that's what their concern is. Noxious weeds they've been dealing with, they deal with them, they go. This is a tough area.
How many of these counties in District 3 actually have a full-time or a designated county supervisor that isn't the highway superintendent?
0. Did you say 0?
Well, I got one.
Is that what you said, Jeremiah?
Yeah, I believe it's 0.
There's no county in that district that has a specific designated weed supervisor. They're all,
Well, I got, Corson's got one, he's not part of the highway.
and that in itself is part of the problem.
And that's something we
Can't do, right.
so. Sully County wouldn't be, Sully and Corson,
Sully's just working on puncture vine and grassy sandbrook, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you had a specific weed supervisor you could go to, but you gotta go to the highway superintendent, he's got other things on his mind,
Yeah.
so.
we have counties that are more active in different districts, but in this district, Tripp, Gregory are fairly active. Stanley somewhat, Hughes somewhat. Sully, Potter, and Corson, is about it. Because Walworth and Campbell have been sporadic.
They're sporadic. Just like I said, last time I talked to Lynn, they're just trying to maintain. So I think they're just gonna spray their shoulders for, you know.
Well, yeah, we need to continue on. Do we wanna have a tour? Do we wanna have it at Chamberlain and we take a look at, get, GF&P to help us put on a 1-hour demonstration on boat inspections for the supervisors, and if there's something to see at the White River and stuff for, where it flows into the Missouri, we could look at that, and maybe something else. It's up to the commission.
I'm just gonna say White River, but how far is it? I was just gonna say that's a long,
The river dropping into the
Yeah, it's not very far south of Chamberlain.
No, it isn't. Bruce and I made, Mike,
I would suggest that you don't put a I mean, if you're gonna decide if you're gonna do it or not, that's great, just don't put a location on it, so then Jeremiah and Eric can have some flexibility while they're planning it, and you're not locked into Chamberlain. I would think it'd be easier to set stuff like a full day or half a day here than it would in Chamberlain. And I mean, if, the only reason to go to Chamberlain is to look at riparian weeds, I mean, we have Phragmites, Russian olive, everything you need right here, so.
that, yeah, and I guess that makes a lot of sense to, Mike, I agree with you, so.
it's just that if we're just doing a tour to have a tour, if we're not actually touring some noxious weeds, what is the benefit? Cause I know there's some question that happens, like the last time when we did one here, we did the ethanol plant, those are very interesting things. But are they things that really apply to the Weed and Pest Commission as a noxious weed? I guess that's one of the reasons why we're asking this question. It's not necessarily, we can find areas to tour, we can do all sorts of things. But if we're gonna just have a tour to have a tour, if we don't have active noxious weed control supervisors to assist with that so that we can, so Eric can plan a plot, I'm just saying. Just to have a tour, this is the district we typically struggle with. We've got a lot of active weed supervisors in the northeast, we have a whole bunch in the southeast, and out west, it's never an issue. This district we struggle with, just because of the expanse of the area and finding a location to have the meeting, as well as having a tour without driving eons of miles.
The, like you say on Mike, like you said on, right ways and stuff, that's an issue, I realize it's not a state noxious or a local noxious.
It is a local on the invasive.
But it's coming all over, and probably, I'm sure, whether, especially if you're in eastern South Dakota, if you're a weed and pest supervisor, you get calls on it. If you don't get calls, you're gonna hear real soon, because it's coming in every area. Something like that would be probably interesting for the weed and pest supervisors to see, with a combination of both inspectors.
I make a motion not to have a fall tour in District 3.
Second.
There's been a motion made and a second. We'll have a roll call vote.
So, what do we say? Because we're saying yes to no.
You're saying yes to a no.
Okay.
Deb made
Just
a
clarify.
motion to not have a tour in District 3. Okay?
This year.
This,
Yep.
Correct. Roll call will be Darren,
On the spot.
I'll have to say no, but
Christina,
Yes.
Dennis,
No.
Brock,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Charles,
No.
Ryan.
yes.
That's what that means. Darwin,
It's 4-3.
I have Darren, no. Dennis, no. Christina as a yes. I didn't write you. No, Christina, were you a no?
She was a yes.
Christina's a yes.
You gonna tie it up?
No.
No. I didn't write your name
I have
down
to break
because
it
I was
down.
like,
Should be 4-3.
that is correct. It is 4-3.
To
So
have
yeses
it.
have it. Yes to have it. So motion failed.
So we're gonna have one.
With a motion. What,
No.
four yeses to no having a tour.
To not have a tour.
Right, right. There was four
There was
yeses.
4 yeses, 3
So-
no's,
I think
so
we
motion
were the
carried.
three, we were the three
to
no's
have
right
a
here.
tour.
So it's not gonna happen.
Yes, no,
No
not
tour.
having a tour.
No tour.
Gracious.
I will offer up
That
though,
was-
I just can't believe that there aren't weeds in District 3 that couldn't be pinned down.
They started it.
I will offer up if we do meet here or wherever here and we wanna have someone pull a boat over here and just walk through that stuff for part of the day or whatever,
Like say after the meeting or
yeah,
something.
whatever, if there's something that's really of interest, happy to coordinate, help that.
You wax it too.
Yeah, Bill, bring your boat
He's
over.
not the water guy.
I'll line somebody up to wash your boat.
And wax it.
And wax.
I got a question for Ryan. Is your AI, you guys have an AIS coordinator still, right?
Yep.
Are they in Pier?
I don't believe so, I believe.
I was gonna say, if you did do a little whatever hour thing, just a general AIS update, I think would be great, cause the commission hasn't heard that in years, and we know there's all sorts of new positives and new regulations, and I personally, I'd be interested in that, so.
That's what this tour is supposed to do, or this meeting, to give out information, and that's, I don't argue it. All right. The yeses was a no, so we got that figured. I think we should take up on Ryan's offer and also what Mike suggests. And we can combine that all into 2-hour presentation and something else.
Just do it after the commission.
Yeah, we'll just do it after the commission meeting and we go from there.
What time of day was the committee tour? When is the, do we write that down, the committee tour?
Well, we're having it here. You wanna start at 11? How long's the commission meeting take in the fall?
Usually after 2 hours by the time you deal with, grant criteria, so I would suggest the earliest
So-
going would be 12 or 12:30, so people can eat prior to.
Well, we got a couple hours afterwards too. I'm thinking of everybody wants to drive in, I'm assuming, so if we started at 10:30 like we did this one, if we're done at 12:30, we can go out and get a bite to eat and have our deal at 1:30, 2 o'clock. How does that sound? 10:30, start time?
What date, what is the date?
September.
September 15th.
Okay, all right, we'll do it that way, we'll start at 10:30, Ryan will line up that other stuff, and if something else would pop up, and if we have time, we can go look at it, it's up to them. Moving on then to new business. Turner County. I'll have Brenda explain what she sent us a letter. Turner County sent us a letter and Brenda sent this out to us.
Brad, are you on the, is Brad on?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. I didn't know if Linda was gonna be on as well, but essentially what happened is, just like the letter says, they were unable to, have a second person at the Weed and Pest Conference due to Linda, their new weed supervisor, was admitted to the hospital, the day prior to traveling to the conference. So I'll just let Brad, I guess, just explain.
Sure, she had been suffering from illness 4 or 5 days previous. Finally got a doctor appointment on Monday afternoon, ended up going in, and it was a direct admit right to the hospital. She spent 7 or 8 days there. Monday being the holiday, I believe it's President's Day. So I did call Brenda Tuesday morning just as quick as I could and said, look, our supervisor's in the hospital. We do have a second person lined up to attend, and to keep that second person in attendance, however, extend their attendance so they could attend the supervisor's training as well. And with that short amount of notice and the travel time included, we were unable to find another additional fill-in person to have 2 people attend the Weed and Pest Conference.
Brad, was the person from Turner County, I maybe misunderstood it, was they at the Weed and Pest Supervisor training, or they did not attend that, but they just attended the conference?
They attended the supervisor's training and the conference, so they stepped in for the supervisor spot and attended the whole conference.
All right, thank you.
So essentially what they're asking for is an exemption so that they can get the full grant amount versus, half, if.
Any commission members have any questions or comments?
Taking this up in the past ever, yeah, what was
I'm trying to remember, Jeremiah, you remember what that? I'm trying to remember, we had another time where we had somebody, but, that was a district meeting one, actually, that was Charles Mix County. The person had been killed, and the district meeting was on like that Wednesday or something, and 2 days prior, the person was killed in a car accident, was supposed to go, and they couldn't get anybody. So, commission granted exemption then.
This seems pretty easy to me. I would make a motion to allow this exemption, especially they're ready to provide medical records. This isn't a bogus deal.
There's been a motion made, is there a second?
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Been a second, we'll have a roll call vote.
Darren,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Brock,
I,
Deb,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion carried. All right,
So with that, I did do a quick synopsis. It looks like the grant will be $7,200 for each county. And then those that only had one person there because of the way the way it's written, it would be $3,800 for them. So $7,200 would be the full grant amount.
okay. Gary? You're up.
Well, 26 conference happened. We had 171 attendees, which was 15 more than last year and a record high in recent history.
Oh.
We had 56 counties that paid dues. We had 8 exhibitors. The one that was missing because they changed representatives and they didn't let me know that they didn't have any contact with the email that was sent. I found out the day the conference started that they couldn't be there because they didn't find out about it until the day before. So on that thing, we only had 4 sponsors this year instead of the 8 that we had a year ago. We had a total revenue of $52,195. Our food expense was $1,000 higher than it was the year before at $15,000. Our hospitality room was $24.58, which is $1,500 higher than it was the year before. Awards were the same. Speakers, we only paid mileage for 1 speaker versus what we did for 4 speakers and some presenters last year. So, ending up, we took in about $20,000 more than we spent. Well, that sounded high, so I went back and looked up last year. And last year we made about $10,000, but actually spent a lot more money. We had banquet meals and suppers where we had breakfast this year. So we went from a $1,500 meal to a $2,500 or $2,700 meal. So we saved some money, but that's where we're at for now. We made $2,290 on the gun raffle and the 50-50 raffle. We made $1,295 on the silent auction. And that's basically all. So, for next year, for this coming year, we will be in Aberdeen at the Ramcota on the 24th, 5, and 6th of February.
And I'm just gonna note that's already been adjusted in the work plan, in your annual work plan. With the
We will
commission.
get 1 comp room for every 50 rooms occupied per day. We will get, our room setups will be $1,500 with a value normally of $5,500. It says they have a restaurant. I know the restaurant that was there is not there now, so I can't tell you what that facility is. I haven't got there yet. Room rates are $114.99 plus tax, which I think is state rate.
112 or 110 state rate. So will there still be rooms available for state rate?
There's 20, I just read it. 20 rooms at state rate. Any questions?
You probably don't have the answer to this one, but I do have a question, or I just have a comment, I guess. I did have one of the counties, tell me that their commissioners wouldn't allow them to send extra individuals. They only were able to send the 2 individuals because of the high conference registration. And I guess if they're gonna have an excess of $20,000 beyond the registration fee, that seems a little bit excessive. Especially if you got counties that aren't wanting to send people because of that.
Nate?
Is there any issues from the commission if we go to 2-day meeting?
Well, you're already at a 2-day, aren't you?
Well, you just said 3, 24, 25, 26.
Well,
Commission and supervisors
it's not
is one
technically
day,
part of the
but
conference,
it's not really technically part of the conference, no.
unless the commission decides they don't wanna do supervisors training.
Is there an issue if we, then I just asked, is there an issue if we go to 2 days from the commission?
So are you gonna shorten up the
commission.
conference?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does it mean the conference would essentially be 1 day then?
Yes.
That's the association's decision. The commission's whole deal is to have
Yes.
our commission meeting and whatever the association decides to do above and beyond what our commission is up to the association.
I think in the spirit of
Our only
cooperation.
challenge is-
Last time we brought this up, we got, you should talk to the department about this. That's why I'm bringing it up and asking it in front of everybody here. Is there any issue if we
The commission's
go
gonna
down?
make that still a requirement of the grant to have the soup training, I guess, otherwise we wouldn't do soup training.
Doesn't it say in rule statute that you have to provide training to the supervisors?
It's just,
It says if provided in the.
that's actually in the grant criteria, if provided. It's not in statute.
Well, then that would be up to, well, it's up to the department if they wanna have soup training, unless the supervisors think it's needed.
So are you thinking then having the commission meeting in the morning and start?
I'm not thinking of anything. I'm just trying to shorten it up a half day. That Friday, we mentioned it, maybe doing away with it, we can adjust the schedule however. If we're down to that, then it can be a 2-night stay instead of 3 night. I mean, it's just options that I'm asking if the commission has any issues with that, if we make any changes.
Mike, to your answer, I do not have an issue with it.
I know there was a lot of positive about having the commission meeting in the morning. I heard a lot of positive comments about that.
Had a lot of comments that want the banquet back too.
If you're gonna go to a 2-day thing, I guess I didn't hear any comments one way or the other on it. If you're gonna go to a 2-day thing and you have the banquet still on Thursday night, then you're gonna lose a lot of bodies.
Yeah, people will go home. Yeah. But now, so we're still requiring, we've moved our district meeting into that, so I see your point, and I like it to a point, but we also if we still have to have a little bit of time in there to break out for a half hour or 40 minutes for each district to have a district meeting, then things might get just a tad little compressed. That's the only thing, if you didn't have to have a district meeting, which is now during the conference, I can see that working, I really could. But if you have to block that much time off, for that, and you have your vendors, things, okay, so you really aren't gonna get started until 10 o'clock, roughly. And then, so how much programming can we get done yet in that first day? And then, you gotta have a little bit of time, cause you have to have an association vote and go over the business of election. Well, there won't be election of officers in Aberdeen, but next time it goes west, you know what I'm saying? That takes some time. I mean, I like it, but the only bad thing I can see is you're gonna kinda run out of time unless the supervisor's thing ain't there, and then after the commission meeting in the morning, then you have those two things happen, then you have a full day of your events. That could work, I mean, but that's details that have to be, that's the only way,
The
something has to
training,
go.
I mean, we could probably do the soup training and do a couple hours, and then, I don't know if you start the conference, you know, like later afternoon or something, but I guess we'd probably have to sit down and hash some things out. Because there's not a district meeting, I think, it's still valuable to have soup training, just because if there happens to be some updates for, we've lost a lot of that contact, we have a lot of people that don't understand the grant process anymore, and of course, we've had these conversations that,
You could do the afternoon though, from the soup train, like you said, 2 hours of that,
Yeah.
and then you could do the afternoon.
Well,
meetings.
this is an
Yep.
issue for the association.
well, not completely.
I mean, we're having our commission meeting, that's good,
Okay,
and
So if we have
let's
that
don't
meeting
drag
next-
this thing out too long. But it's an association thing, is if, how they wanna set up their conference.
I have one question
But,
for that.
we'll take some, let's don't,
Is what then, if the association has this meeting and they made some changes, what are the requirements from the commission for the counties to get their grant? What do they make sure we don't?
That he's getting right to the exact point, that's kinda all tied together, Christina's.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman. May I apologize and ask to be excused when we scheduled this meeting? I forgot I'm speaking on a national webinar for Work Zone Awareness kickoff
Wow.
at noon, so I
you
need
got,
to,
you have to go very far?
yes. No, just
Okay. You've
over to
got
the
10
computer.
You got 10 minutes.
Yes,
You're excused.
thank you very
You bet.
much.
Hey, Gary, you wanna report on the scholarship stuff to these guys?
I have that, I wanna report on it, I got it written down here. That's, Beans Gary is giving his report. I would like to know, I seen how many we issued, how many applicants did we have then also?
We had 35 that was arrived on time. We had 8 that got by in the next 30 days. We allowed 8 grants. We allowed 2 $1,000 grants and 6 $500 grants. So they give out the $5,000, which was $2,000 more than the silent auction and the raffle brought in. And we've done that for the last 2 years because we're using the interest off of our invested money as scholarship money. Only thing that I would say bad about our scholarship fund is we got basically no applications from West River. We got 1.
None from District 4. We had 3 of them from 3, everything was out of 2 and 1.
The 8 applicants that came in 30 days late, did you consider them?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
That's right on it, they would not be considered, so they,
Yeah.
So
scholarship committee never saw it.
what will the deadline be for next year? Cause I think that was one of the,
Well, it was the last day of February this year.
but before that, wasn't it the end of March?
Yes, before
So I
that, it was
think-
the end of March.
That,
And one of them used an application from a year ago that did apply late.
so is that gonna be the deadline coming up for them going forward?
I would anticipate that, but I
We talked about moving it up so we have more time as the scholarship committee to review the applications and
'Cause I
get
mean,
it turned
I
out.
tried to send it out to everybody, and I know Brock tried to send it out too, but they had a very short time frame to
Yeah.
get it done, cause no one realized that
Yeah, no,
deadline had been moved
we
up.
talked about making it available earlier, we've got some ideas to make it more available digitally with the QR code and stuff, so that'd be easier to distribute. You can do it via email, send the QR code to the high schools, FFA, guidance counselors, whatever, and then that's all they have to do, they get right to the application.
I'll be honest, I'm surprised you got that many applicants, because we really, between Brock and I, tried to get it sent out as quick as possible, cause we didn't know the deadline should be.
Well, that's,
I didn't get that information.
we're dealing with an association thing again. Thank you for your report, Gary, let's keep this meeting moving, cause this is something that I think we need to address at the association. Is there any other questions to Gary? If not, we're gonna go into the long-term directives, Brenda,
Just updated the information, I don't think.
any, Anybody see, did you go over the long term? The long term is the small pack of it. We'll deal, one is the annual work plan, one is the small packet. The small packet is the one that starts out with environmental issues directives. Is there any question on that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept that one.
I'll move to accept that.
Second it.
I'll have a roll call vote.
Darren,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Brock,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes,
Charles,
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, now we'll go to our annual work plan. Does anybody see anything that needs to be changed there? We gotta go to, the only thing I see is the back page when we go to the dates.
You've got the time listed as 1 on September 15th.
And I guess we'll just have to change that to TBA, I would say, or 10:30, if that's what you decide.
I think that's what the commission decided, we at 10:30 for a commission meeting in September, we go over the grant stuff. And then at, was it 1:30, I said we was gonna start the,
Wax
We
and
didn't-
boats.
yeah, wax and bolts.
Well, no, we have to have time. I think we can work that out with Ryan. I don't think we wanna set an actual time on that until you get figured out.
That's fine. I think we agreed at 10:30 for the commission meeting, so that needs to be put in there. Next hurdle we got is the February weed pest conference.
I would say we just do a TBA and, hopefully we could have the department work with the association to come up with a plan, because the commission's gonna have to determine what they wanna do for grant criteria. Maybe one suggestion is gonna be that you have 2 people attend a 2-hour soup training, and then if it's gonna continue into the conference after that, or, I mean, if there's some ideas to throw around there. But that's they kinda have been intertwined, so there needs to be, I would say, some discussion.
Yep, no after conference association. To be determined.
So just change on the last page on 9, change that to 10:30 a.m. So
Yep.
completed?
Yeah.
And then remove the annual inspection from that next line.
Remove, yeah, cross out the whole thing.
And I think remove we're gonna keep it at Matthews Training Center, sorry.
Yep.
We were talking Cedar Shores there for a bit.
And then on down for in February, it's just to be determined for a weed and pest conference and commission meeting, or whatever that.
So go ahead and leave it as February 25th, 24th, 25th, 26th, or is it a real reality that you're gonna take that last day off?
Well, we don't know yet.
Let's leave it to be determined.
Leave it to
We'll discuss
TBA.
that, we can
All
have
the
that.
dates to be determined?
Well, the first 2 probably will be all right. It's gonna be the last Friday, I guess. It's a good question. It depends on what our
So
requirements are.
just leave it 26th, 24th, 25th, 26th, and just say to be determined.
The 26th could be optional.
So we're still gonna plan to do the review or the commission meeting the morning of the 24th is still.
Yes, I'm definitely in favor of that. I love that. I think everybody did.
If there's any changes, we can make it at the September meeting. between September and February.
Okay.
Well, it's just we have
The
to,
word can
we have
get
to
out.
post the annual work plan on
Yes.
the boards and commission sites, so that's,
Yeah. Just-
The only thing that I would make is a point, or I'll make a motion or a point of order just on the on the 26th. Change that to possibly optional and leave the first two dates in stone.
20.
And we'll keep our commission meeting on the 20th.
Commission meeting will be on the 24th in the morning right away.
26th would be, I'm trying to think of the best way to put that. Possibly. What's the better way of doing that, Bill?
Do ya?
I think maybe just, put the 26th in parentheses, and then do a TBA on just that one in parentheses, maybe
There you
that's the
go.
best way to do it?
Or add the word tentative.
There we go.
There you go.
Tentative, I like that better. Okay.
Any other changes to this document? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
And a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We'll have a roll call.
Aaron,
Yeah.
Dennis,
Yes.
Brock,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes,
Charles,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, I'm gonna turn this over to Brenda. We have election of officers.
All right. Are there any nominations for chairman?
I nominate Darwin.
Anybody else have, is there any other nominations for chairman? Any other nominations for
I'll
chairman?
nominate Dennis.
Okay, now we're gonna have a vote.
Yeah.
really.
Any other oh, we did.
I already called 3 times,
All
so.
right.
So now we have to have a vote.
Speeches, huh?
Yeah. Just a roll call, entertaining. So we've got Darwin and Dennis are both nominated to be chairman. I guess the only way I can do it, because we're doing roll call, would be, write your name down and who you voted for, that's all I can do. Darren,
Dennis.
Dennis,
Darwin.
Brock,
Darwin. No offense.
Deb,
He's well experienced.
Dennis,
Should have had a campaign speech first.
Charles,
Dennis.
Ryan,
If it comes to a tie, we gotta get it.
and since Christina had to leave the meeting, we now have a tie. Darwin,
Dennis.
Dennis is gonna be your chairman. The next.
Really
Alright.
good friends, you don't need
Okay,
enemies, right?
oh, we have to have a vice chairman, don't we?
Yep.
Okay, we'll open up the floor for a vice, Dennis takes over now, or does that, this meeting?
I think it's after this meeting.
We'll open it up for a vice chairman.
I nominate Darwin.
I'll second it.
No nominations, we've got to call 3 times.
Any more nominations?
Cast unanimous ballot, or make nomination cease and cast unanimous ballot. Now, that's what I should have said. Sorry.
That's, motion's been made,
Need a second on that one.
be a second,
Second.
roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Gotta say our names.
Darren,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Brock?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Charles?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Motion carried. Aaron's your place.
You're on your own.
I need help.
All right, we have a public comment period. I'll limit it to probably 10 minutes. If anybody's got any comments, I'm gonna try to limit that to 2 or 3 minutes. Any other comments?
I have a comment,
Okay.
about the ash borer and all the firewood that's getting sold. Is there any repercussions out of the quarantine area?
I guess I'll have to address that one since, I haven't been made aware of all the ash that's being sold outside those areas.
I know there's a lot on Facebook that is in the areas, so that's being posted across Facebook.
Well, Bill just found a number for me last week on that one that you had let send, so, I was gonna try to get a hold of that guy, but we do try to contact and follow up with them.
But I know there's more in the Watertown area that's posting right now. So,
But you know they're leaving the quarantine area?
I don't know, they're just
Okay.
offering, that's the thing. Yep. And they're
And they
commenting,
can do that within the
dry
quarantine.
treated for a year. That's how they're posting it.
Dry treated?
Yeah, they've been cured for a year. That's the only thing I have about it.
I guess get those to me again, if there's other ones, you only sent me the one.
I'm not trying to be, but you know, we're trying to alleviate the spread.
Like I
Because we do know that there's a possibility now, another county will probably be on the list, what Nathan and I have found out, so it will probably be coming as soon as it's checked out this year.
It really isn't fair to them.
Okay, now wait a second. Bill and I are.
Sorry, Brenda, I realize though, well, Hunter has pictures of, that was given to him from another county, so he hasn't, they've gotta go check and inspect first, so. That was given to him, I think.
As in
last
Hunter
year.
Picard?
Yeah.
Not last.
So,
He has to verify it.
yeah,
From the pictures, it looked like there was potential, and the county starts with an H, if that helps. That's what we deducted.
I know when Hunter
didn't
Picard
tell-
gets those, he goes to Dr. Ball for
Yeah.
verification.
right, and that's what he has to do.
He did not tell us which county it was. We used
He doesn't have a picture from
we
somewhere.
used it from the picture is all.
That's pretty
So,
good.
yeah, he's,
That's not something for this.
No,
Yeah.
the only thing is, I don't think didn't one gentleman in Watertown start up a business?
Yes, he did.
That's really not fair to him, cause he's meeting all the
No,
specs.
he's making all the specs and we,
Right.
But you
But I
got
mean-
people, if they're selling it,
I mean,
some of
I
those
just,
Facebook sites are
those,
closed down
that
that you
question
can't get
is,
into.
is my question.
Yeah.
You know, cause is there any repercussions? Because I know it said you're not supposed to move it, but.
There are, we contact those people,
Yeah.
and so that's the thing, I only knew of the one that you'd sent me, so if there's more than that, I don't have access to, unless it's with my personal Facebook account.
Right.
So I'm not gonna do that stuff or make those contacts with my personal account,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I don't
I
intend to do this
understand that.
forever.
I understand that, and I'm not making, I'm just saying that, what I've been seeing.
Well, I know, but
That's
if you
been
can
a
take
lot.
screenshots of those, we
Pass
have
it
names
along.
of people and pass that
Yeah.
on, that's the only way that we have, cause those sites are locked down sometimes, like that one that you sent me, I couldn't get into.
Cause there's one just this weekend that posted out of Watertown, got a big sale for X amount for this weekend.
Well, get a screenshot and send it to us.
That's the only way they can handle it.
Alright, that was the only thing I had
Oh,
to
yeah.
say.
But I mean, we can't.
We're just trying to
some of those
reduce the
Facebook
spread so
sites are
fast.
closed
It's
down,
gonna
you
be
can't
here,
see
but-
anything unless you're a member.
well, if it's on Facebook, my wife would say it's the truth.
If they're selling something, usually there's,
That's all I know, that's.
they're selling.
Is there
All right.
a law that says it can't be sold?
Well, it can't be transported
It can't
outside.
transport outside of the quarantine area.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right, we need a motion to approve the bills.
Make a motion to approve the bills.
Call vote.
Darren?
Yeah.
Dennis?
Yep.
Brock?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Charles? Brian?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. With that, I think we can have a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Anybody opposed,
Darren?
just vote no.
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Brock?
Yes.
Deb?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll just hit in here, Bill. Yep, and then we have to shut down.
Gary, are we supposed to go to the Pizza Ranch next, or what, what time is that meeting?
I have to update.